Douglas Brenner Shocks here in Southern California. I'm authorized Ohlins sales and service for both automotive and motorcycle. I think I'm the only one in the country authorized to do that, and I'm exclusively Ohlins. I don't work on anything else. I'm a shock tech, not a guru. I've done this for over 30 years, and also I know it's hard to believe because I am so young and handsome. I've been racing for over 50 years and doing shocks and putting them in my car and seeing in competitive on-track situations what I've done. I'm not sitting on the internet or just on YouTube. I call them on the internet jabberwankers, telling you what to do when they have no real experience with actual racing or with real competitive drivers. So be careful. I also know I'm not going to be an internet sensation, so I make my money selling and servicing Ohlins products. So give me a call if you need service or sales. You might as well buy it from somebody who actually knows inside and out the product and not a internet reseller. I'm as close as UPS, FedEx, etc. If you need service or bring them over. I'm in Southern California. I'm available 7 days a week to serve your needs. So give me a call if you need something, and I can compete with any price on Ohlins products. Any legitimate price you have, I can do the same or better, and you might as well buy it from somebody who knows the product. So let's see what we have this week. Okay, I'm back. I haven't posted in a while, and there's a reason for that. I'm running out of stuff that I know about. There was a book published a long time ago called The Peter Principle. And it was meant to be a satire, but it turned out that it wasn't a satire at all. It was true. And the premise was in any hierarchy, and of course I'm a hierarchy of one, but in any business that has a lot of employees, employees are promoted. They do a good job at one thing and they're promoted, and finally they're promoted to their level of incompetence. And I'm kind of up against that. I'm running out of stuff I actually know about. I don't want to be one of those guys with whiteboards telling you about stuff that I have no idea about. So when I find something that I think is interesting and that I know about, I'll post again. So today I'm going to tell you about the best shock in the world, TTX40, Ohlins TTX40. And I'll go through why this is so good and what makes it so good. I did these years and years ago. I just got them back. They were a mess. So I'm redoing them, and I thought since I have them here, I can just tell you about them and why they're so great. So here we go. Okay, let's see how a modern shock works. Most shocks that you're probably dealing with. It has a shaft, has a seal head with seals and a bushing to make sure that the shaft itself doesn't move around. Then it has a piston on the end of the shaft. In TTX36, the piston usually has no shims except when it's a blow-off. In all single tube shocks, there's shims on this piston. And there's a piston ring, and this piston ring does two jobs. It pushes the oil, it seals the oil in the tube so that when it moves, the oil has to go through the ports. But it's also a bushing. It's doing two jobs. It's a seal and a bushing. And this bushing keeps the shaft straight in the tube. So as the shock moves in and out, this distance between these two bushings change all the time. And when they get close together, it's not good. There's a lot of leverage. It's easy to misalign because more shaft is showing out here. It's exponential because more shaft shows, and then there's less distance between these two bushings. And that causes stiction. There's stiction here when this is trying to seal, but also trying to keep this shaft straight. So that's one kind of stiction that's involved with this kind of a shock. So how is the TTX40 different? And this is a TTX40. There's a few other TTXs that have this technology. There's this TTX40. I think they make this with a 36 millimeter piston. The inside tube is different. I guess the IndyCar guys want a smaller piston for some reason. There's a TTR, which Indy uses sometimes, and there's, instead of having the regular valves, they have some sort of other kind of valving and two little adjustments so they can, I guess, make everything close. I don't know. They're modules so they can take them in and out. I'm not thrilled about it, but I guess they might know what they're doing. And then there's the TTX46 strut, which is an incredible piece. It really solves a lot of strut problems. And that also is the same. And what's the difference? What's the basic difference? Well, here we go. Okay. All right, let me get this out. This is the piston on this. And you notice there's shaft out here, and there's shaft here. So when this moves in and out, there's another shaft. What does that do? Well, that shaft goes all the way through the shock and out the other end, and actually it's hollow in here. It gives it room to move, right? So it moves in and out. Now, what are the advantages? What are some of the advantages? Well, major advantage is that there's a bushing here. This is this seal head. This is the same seal head. And it goes this way. And there's a bushing in here that the shaft goes in. So there's a bushing here, and there's another bushing here at the end. And these bushings stay the same distance apart. And basically, this piston itself is in double shear, and this piston is in single shear. So there's no misalignment because it's being held. And when the shaft goes in and out, even though you're getting more leverage to bend here, this distance stays the same. So it's not exponential. Another factor is this seal on this piston only needs to work as a seal, to seal in the tube so it can push oil back and forth. It doesn't have to do two jobs, much less friction in this. Okay, and there's virtually no stiction. So, as I've shown in previous videos, when you have a shock TTX36, single tube shocks, where when the shaft goes in, oil has to be displaced to make room for the shaft. So on a lot of shocks, most Ohlins, there's a separator piston. It's either in line or it's in a remote reservoir, a remote canister. And every time the shaft moves, this has to move. So there's a little stiction involved, you know. In rebound, it's kind of being pushed by the pressure on top of it, but also it has a little delay. And then every time it has to move, it has to overcome a little friction. So that's another factor in friction. Some shocks have a bladder, but Ohlins doesn't use a bladder. Hypothetically, a bladder, I would think, wouldn't have any stiction. I don't know. But I think the reason Ohlins doesn't use it is I can't figure out how you'd vacuum fill a shock with a bladder. So it's a moot point with what I do. Now, in the TTX40 and their whatever other, you know, the TTX46s and so on, there is a separator piston, and here it's up in the top, and it goes in here, and there's a little, the oil would be in here, and then the nitrogen would be above it. But this is there for another reason. It probably keeps things from sucking air from sucking through the seal in big hits or something. But basically, it's just so that when the oil expands, it can go somewhere, because oil with heat will expand. So it's not moving up and down every time the shock moves. It's simply there to mitigate the effect of expanding oil. Okay, another factor is there's no nose pressure here. Because the separator piston is moving and it's not affecting the shaft, if you put the shaft here, it just stays. I had a guy, some guru, came down with a formula car. I put a set of these on, and he came to me, he said, "Oh, the shock's broken, it doesn't." I said, "No." So then he goes, and these are very powerful, like I'll do another video on these four-way adjusters. So he did what he did with the so-called professional shock, and there's 40 low speed and 50 high speed here. The so-called professional shock has maybe 20. But anyway, he was used to turning things down, you know, -8 or something. And the guy, the second turn, he went straight off the track. The guy locked up the whole shock. So, you know, you got to be careful, but I'll do another video on that. So what are the downsides? What are the downsides of a TTX40? Well, there's a few. Number one, price. They're expensive. It's a sophisticated shock. There's lots of parts. And it's expensive to service because not only are there two sets of seals and bushings, but you have to take it pretty much apart to replace all the seals. It's not as easy as the other shocks I work on. And another factor is service intervals. You can't, these have been on, I mean, one was out of oil. This is a high performance piece, and if you're putting it on your street car, street track car, or whatever, you just have to take care of it and service it periodically. Keep an eye on it. The service intervals are much closer than other shocks. Another downside is the ratio of the length of this shock to the amount of travel. If you have a car that needs a really short shock with a lot of travel, this isn't your shock. And they're mostly on sports racers, Formula cars. This is from a big V8 Audi, it fit. Porsches use a TTX46 strut and a TTX40 rear shock. There's kits for that. So just be aware that this ratio is not conducive to every application. And kind of lastly, you should vacuum fill these. There's the vacuum fill port. I don't know how you'd bleed them manually. I just, hand bleeding might not be in the cards. There's so many nooks and crannies and places for air to be trapped that you really should have a vacuum filler if you're going to do any kind of work on these. Alright, so that's about it. I think I'm going to do another video on these kind of adjusters. I got a few more, and then also when you have these adjusters, or even the two-way in a way, there's a valve referencing program that Ohlins has. I think I'll do a video on that when I get some time, because these are so adjustable. You really want to have some idea what you're doing before you're turning the knobs. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time I get an idea. Thanks.